I'd like to call the Township of North Huntington Board of Commissioners work session meeting for Thursday, May 15th, 2025 to order at 7 p.m. Roll call, Manager Falk.
Commissioner Hempel.
Here.
Commissioner Atwood.
Here.
Commissioner Gray.
Here.
Commissioner Zona.
Here.
Commissioner Bevan.
Here.
Commissioner Goss.
Here.
President Hagus.
Here. Could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If any residents would like to speak tonight, if you could please sign a book at the podium. Thank you. Our first resident is Missy. If you could just come up to the podium and say your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Misty Funyak. I spoke on this a couple of weeks ago at the last meeting, I guess, regarding the rezoning on Clifton for a dog kennel. I live in that neighborhood. It's a residential neighborhood, obviously, and there are a ton of kids. We have a ton of dogs. You know, it's really not a great place for that. I could see lots of problems with noise, complaints, safety concerns, traffic, and the like. So I just, you know, I'm a fan of dogs. We have two of ourselves, but not in a residential neighborhood. It's not a good idea. So speaking on behalf of my neighborhood, thank you.
Thank you. Our next resident is Nicholas. If you could come to the podium and say your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Nicholas, and I reside in North Huntington Township. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Nicholas Anthony Carroza, and I'm speaking today as the founder of Accountability Now Norwin, a civic initiative committed to government transparency, constitutional accountability, and the protection of citizen rights in the community. You can find us on Facebook or reach out to me directly, and I will personally help guide you to our page and our group. First, I am formally requesting a meeting with this board and township solicitor. We have reached a point where a face-to-face discussion is no longer optional, it is necessary. This invitation remains open only until July 7th of 2025, the one-year anniversary of the car crash that changed my family's life and exposed deep-rooted failures in the township's government. Should you decline, I will move forward with litigation under 42 U.S.C. subsection 1983 for constitutional violations, and will explore civil action under 18 PACS subsection 911, Pennsylvania Civil RICO statute. This is not a threat, it's a formal and lawful notice that the era of unchecked power in this township is ending. Tonight's proposed ordinance is a dangerous overreach. It allows the township to revoke business licenses based on vague subjective claims, even based on the behavior of patrons. It empowers a single designated officer to impose severe penalties and prohibits business operations during appeal, effectively destroying livelihoods without due process. This ordinance violates the First Amendment by chilling speech and association, the 14th Amendment by denying due process, and the 8th Amendment by imposing excessive fines and jail time. If passed, it will be challenged in federal court because the Constitution is not suspended by local ordinances. Meanwhile, within your own police department, a township employee came forward with a formal complaint after receiving repeated unsolicited sexually explicit images from a police officer. When she reported it, a superior officer allegedly pressured her to drop the complaint, not to protect the victim, but to shield the officer from accountability. Despite the severity of the misconduct and the knowledge of the department leadership, including Chief Rizzo, the officer was promoted to the rank of sergeant. This raises serious questions. Is there a department policy prohibiting promotions under disciplinary review? And was the disciplinary process deliberately paused or hidden to allow the promotion to go through? Because if so, that was not discipline, it was deception. What any reasonable person would call gaming the system. Then came April 16th, 2025, as I was being forcibly removed from this very room during public comment. Commissioner Ron Zona publicly declared that I should be charged with disorderly conduct under 18 PACS subsection 5503 simply for using vulgar language. Let me be absolutely clear, vulgarity is not obscenity and political speech is not a crime. Section 5503 only applies when speech serves no legitimate purpose and causes public alarm. And for obscene charges to apply, the content must meet the Miller v. California test. 1, it must appeal to the pure interest in sex. 2, it must depict sexual conduct in a patently offensive way. And 3, it has to lack any literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. My words did not meet any of these criteria. They were strong, yes, but they were political, focused on exposing government misconduct and fully protected under the First Amendment. Commissioner Zona's call to have me criminally charged was not about maintaining decorum, it was about silencing dissent. And in doing so, it violated my 14th Amendment right, First and 14th Amendment rights. Finally, I must address a defamatory and malicious statement made by Jason Atwood, who publicly and falsely accused me of selling drugs to our kids. Specifically, he stated, "The only scandal is the fact that the commissioners are allowing themselves to be swayed by a 3-time felon that sells drugs to our kids. Perhaps the police bother you because you have a history of breaking the law." That statement is a lie, made with reckless disregard for the truth, and intended to destroy my credibility and reputation. It has been documented, and this board has already received a formal notice via email. Mr. Atwood is an elected official, and the law is clear. When a public official knowingly spreads false and damaging claims about a private citizen without evidence, it constitutes defamation. This is not protected speech. It is actionable libel. I am demanding a formal retraction of the statement, a written apology read in the public record, and public condemnation from this board of such defamatory conduct. If no action is taken, I will pursue legal remedies to defend my name and the integrity of the civic work I lead. This is not just one ordinance, one meeting, or one voice. This is about a pattern of corruption, retaliation, and suppression. I'm 3 sentences away from finishing.
You gotta finish real quick.
Thank you, sir. If no action is taken, I will pursue legal remedies. This is not about one ordinance, one meeting, or one voice. This is about a pattern of corruption, retaliation, and suppression of dissent in this township, and it ends now. The Constitution does not bend to comfort. The law does not yield to politics, and tyranny, whether it wears a badge, holds a gavel, or speaks into a microphone, must answer to the truth, courage, and accountability. Today is the day. Now is the time. We will not be silent, and we will not back down.
Our next resident is Greg and Christie.
Um, 1601 Craig Drive. I'd like to address concerns on driveway damage from the township paving project or program in 2023. Majority of the staff is aware of this.
Could you speak in
Oh,
front
sorry.
of the mic?
Majority of the staff and the engineer are aware of this, and they provided a solution. A few of the commissioners came out to visit, and thank you for coming out. So it happened on September 15th, 2023, and the contractor hired by the township was paving Headland Drive, and the wheels came across on the 2 slabs of the driveway. The township staff and engineer were notified and visited right after that event. In January 2025, township is notified about the cracking expanding farther back into it and spreading, mainly due to the freeze-thaw cycles. In April 2025, township was performed a site visit and assessed structural damage. They proposed a solution that was like a mortar mixture. And we asked them to clarify what exactly that was, and they proposed a Sika 1060 concrete repair mortar. And they said they would only cover the front edge of the concrete apron near the water box. And we asked how that would be done. So essentially, it said they would clean the loose material, trowel, and brush in. And that's okay, but there's a couple concerns with that, right? First, the proposed solution doesn't cover all the damage. Some of the depth in the cracks aren't part of that. And then also, I actually reached out to the vendor of that product and provided them with information, and that's not in line at all with that application. And also, the proposed solution doesn't promote any durability and longevity of the damage because, there's no preparation work, right? The compromised concrete's still there, the cracks are there. And so really you're burdening the cost on the taxpayers because ultimately it's going to come back to the taxpayer to fix their own driveway. And then also, so like there's the other slab on the left. So that slab hasn't cracked yet. There's still some time before the bond is up, right? So who knows what'll happen by September. But yeah, so at this point, I think we're just asking if commissioners will work with the township on reassessing the damage and providing a resolution, an updated resolution, really.
Thank you. I believe the next resident's Kelly. Kathy, I'm sorry. I apologize.
I am Dr. Kathy Elizas, and I live on Navrig Hill Road. I was in North Huntington, born and raised here, when crime was at a minimum, and you could leave your car doors unlocked and your windows open. I don't know if the board understands or knows about the amount of theft and criminal things that are going on, particularly in our area. There was a truck stolen. Some people that had their car stolen are here. So what are we doing in order to entail our safety? Do you know what happened? Do you all know what happened? There was also a car on Pinecrest Court approximately a month prior to that had a gun in it, and that gun was stolen as well. The truck was found, there was a truck and a car, their car was taken. The truck was actually found because the people who owned it had OnStar, and they were able to follow it wherever it went, and then when they stopped to get gasoline, they got a picture of his face. But I would like to know, other than locking our doors, locking our homes, and leaving lights on, what are we supposed to do? I mean, it needs to stop. I was living in Monroeville, and we left Monroeville because of the crime that was increasing there. Do you guys got your car? Have you gotten your car back yet?
Yeah, I got it.
Any comments from the board?
Well, we usually listen to all the citizens' input, and then the board will comment to everyone's input afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And our last resident's Don. If you could just come up to the podium, say your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Don Brill. I live at 3350 Old Spring Road. A few weeks ago, I came out Saturday morning, my car was gone. As the police were there talking to me, my neighbor came over and told me his truck had been stolen. He was the one who had the OnStar. He was talking to the North Huntington police saying his was stolen at 4 in the morning. And he said, well, my truck's here, my truck's here, my truck's here. It stopped here, it stopped here, it stopped here. And nobody down 30 would pull that truck over. They had my car and his truck at the same time, so there were 3 individuals involved at least, because they had to get into Ardera somehow. We told the police that the trucks had stopped at the Sunoco station at Westinghouse Bridge for gasoline. I used to install security for a living. In fact, I did some of the fire systems in this building. And I went down myself and got video of them pulling in with my car with the truck, paying for the fuel. I turned that over to the North Huntington Police. The truck was found in the projects below East Hill Shopping Center. My car was used in a drive-by shooting in Wilkinsburg. A lady got shot in the hand. The next night, they came and stole another pickup truck right at Navrig Hill and 993. They figured out it also had the GPS tracking, so they dumped it on the railroad tracks. Another commercial vehicle got stolen a week later. It had company signage all over it, roof racks, lots of nice tools. Nothing got stolen. but that's the truck that got used down in Braddock at the drive-by shooting. They were shooting at people trying to renovate and repair the monument against gun violence. But somebody was looking at them, they took offense to that. So they decided to start opening fire. What's frustrating me more than anything, people in my community are now banding together pretty much as Neighborhood Watch. A lot of them have installed awful expensive security systems and cameras, which to me is absolutely useless. But I put a motion detector in my area. If that motion detector goes off in the middle of the night, well, let's just hope they're reasonable. The biggest frustration with me was a lack of communication. I was never told what was going on. It cost me $375 cash to get my car out of the impound. After the Allegheny County Police went through it, I went to get it at the impound, and there's a Gatorade bottle. I don't drink that stuff. So I called the guy. He came. I said, "You want DNA?" There it is. He took it. And when I went to clean out my car, there's all the Kleenexes out of my glove box laying on the floor. Apparently, one of them had a runny nose. And I couldn't get a hold of the Allegheny County cops, so I used a pair of stainless steel tongs and put it in a plastic bag and brought it up to the officers here in North Huntington. What's driving people crazy is now everybody's got cameras. Everybody's watching all the little roads. It's a dead-end community, all dead-end streets, but they haven't seen any police presence. Well, we got told, well, it's not that simple. We can't just go down and pick them up. We don't know where they're at. I have a few connections in the area. The kid was sitting on his mother's porch smoking a joint. People know him. Everybody knows him. And the one pistol he got when they finally did get arrested, and I finally did get a phone call last Saturday night saying they were arrested, he had a pistol with a Glock switch, which takes a semi-automatic pistol and turns it fully automatic. That's a federal offense, as I understand, carrying a 10-year penalty. We just need better communication. If my stuff has been stolen, I just need a couple of phone calls. You know, yes, we know who they are. Yes, we're going after them. Yes, we are in your neighborhood. Now, my neighbors say they know the unmarked cars and have not seen the unmarked cars, but I know a few other officers that say, oh yeah, they've been there. But just a little bit of communication to let us have a little bit of peace of mind. I haven't been able to go out hunting because I usually go Friday night and Saturday because my wife just doesn't feel safe anymore. Just asking for better communication.
All right, thank you, sir. Is any resident here that didn't get a chance to speak tonight would like to speak? All right, I'm not seeing any response to citizens' input. First resident spoke about the rezoning. I believe that might be on the agenda for next week's meeting, if I'm not mistaken, Manager Falk.
Yes.
So the board will be taking action on that next week if you'd like to come and find out. And then next resident is Nicholas. I believe he spoke to a few things. I think one of his main points was requesting a meeting with the township.
I'd like to go ahead, Rich.
I was just going to say, one of the main things that you said that I agree with, and I actually showed Commissioner Gass my notes from before the meeting, was you used the phrase government overreach with that ordinance, and I agree with you completely.
Mr. Carosi, yeah, I'm not going to address the ordinance, but I am going to reaffirm. Listen, what happened to Katie and Jordan, man, I honest to God, I know I'm very sorry. I am. And I thank God it didn't wind up worse. I really, really am. Nonetheless, Katie is hurt. And she's struggling. She is, brother. I know. I know. We have you guys in our prayers every night at dinner. I want you to know that, and we're going to continue that. But I'm also going to look to this board, and I really think, I talked to my wife about Mr. Carrozza's incident, and had that been my wife and my stepson, you know what? The name change wouldn't be Nick Carrozza, it would be Eric Goss. I would be up here too. I have to admit this. I really do. I strenuously recommend to this board, and I've said it before, and I've done it many months ago, and I talked to somebody on this board that had the ability. I want us to meet with Mr. Carrozza. I do. Because Mr. Carrozza is right. You know what? In the grand scheme of things, we tried pinning obscenity on him, but obscenity is reserved really for the Miller versus California lawsuit. It was a landmark lawsuit, 413 U.S. 15 in 1973. It had to do with sexual graphic. Mr. Carrozza could never be charged with obscenity. So obscenity was not the right word to use. The word that should have been used was vulgarity. And there is a law case, again, a landmark Supreme Court case, and that was Cohen versus California in 1971. And after that case, guess what the Supreme Court said? The landmark case established that the government cannot criminalize the display of profane words in public places, even if they are offensive. I think, Nick, what we should have said, that your words were offensive. And I think everybody, you know, but I understand where you're coming from, man. You're passionate about this. You almost lost Katie and Jordan that day, and it hasn't been easy for you, and it'll be a year in July. And I know that, brother. And I share that your pain with you. But the Supreme Court emphasized that the government cannot act as a guardian of public morality and suppress the vulgar language simply because it is offensive. I know none of us like to get screamed at, and none of us like to hear that kind of language. And I know publicly that when we're in restaurants and we hear people talking like that, we have a tendency to turn our head and ask those people to please calm it down, please, for the sake of the family. And I get it. And I'm not excusing Mr. Carrozza, and I'm not, but I don't want anybody thinking, boy, you're a sympathizer with him. I sympathize with the fact that he almost lost his fiancée and son. That would have been tragic. I'm going to ask the board again. I think, honest to God, we have, and we should, have a public meeting or private meeting with Mr. Carrozza. Because, gang, I'm going to tell you something. The guy that's been coming up here in front of us is extremely intelligent. He really is. He knows his stuff. And I'm impressed by his knowledge. I also, contrary to popular belief that maybe some people think, he really wants what's best for this community. But he says it with such expression that sometimes it throws us off. Nick, you okay, brother? So I'm pleading with this Board of Commissioners that please, let's have a sit down with him. We owe it to him. And we owe it to Katie and to Jordan. Because you know what? I think Nick's going to give us some great ideas about transparency and how government should work for the people. It's all about good communication. That's all he wants. He doesn't want to hurt anybody, but he's angry because he almost lost his family. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Does anyone else have anything else? All right. Next two residents were spoken about some property damage. Cody, do you know if we had a performance bond with the paving company that they actually might be the ones responsible to come out and redo their driveway?
Yeah, and that was the proposed solution that Bob worked out with them.
All right. So maybe we could reach out to Mr. Robinson and get a second opinion. I mean, I could definitely understand putting some concrete seal in a major crack that's probably just going to reopen up with a freeze and thaw. It's probably not the correct solution.
Yeah,
So
I
maybe-
could talk to him about it.
All right, then we could reach out to the residents and get a better game plan for them to fix their driveway.
If I can add something to that, I went out and talked to Christy and Greg, and I did see the cracks in there, and I wouldn't mind if maybe Bob and you also, if we can go out there with them. I mean, it is, and you've seen it before, right? I mean, I can put my hand down in that, I mean, it's it's an opening like that. It's not just a crack, it's a hole.
Right.
And I put my whole hand down in, almost up to my knuckles, and it goes underneath the concrete, underneath the road. I mean, there's a pretty big void underneath there. It's not huge, but it's enough to fit my hand under there. And in that half a circle of a hole, there's some cracks radiating out of that. And I know from talking to them, that was a concern, that if we just fill that in, there's some cracks, and you can tell they're from that because it's the same arc and it's radiating out. Looks like it may crack further. And so I did have some concerns with that too. Maybe we can, if you guys are gonna go out, I'd like to go out and meet you out there one day to speak with them too.
Absolutely.
And see if we can, and I know the roadway right there too, where the void is underneath, there's a crack starting in the asphalt pavement. And I know that's not on their property, it's on the road, but that is gonna start cracking and making a hole there too, I believe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think.
we could set up a meeting.
Yeah, I would
can
like to
send
go
an
out there
email
with you and meet with them both out there too, if you could. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have anything on it?
Excuse me, I also went out, Cody, and viewed it, and I agree that we should do more. After a very detailed and technical explanation of the damage and photographs and video and who was responsible, yeah, I think we need to do better too. I think when you said Bob agreed to a repair, I think the definition of repair is the question. Filling the void or with epoxy is probably not the right one. I think we should accommodate pretty much what they want.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I
thank
can
you.
set up a meeting. Do you also want to be part of that?
No, I viewed it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying my technical knowledge is up to speed, but I question whether the void under the slab was caused by the truck, but clearly the hole was.
Right.
Thanks, Cody.
Mhm.
And the last two residents spoke on the recent, I guess, thefts and car trouble in the Ardera area. Unfortunately, the police chief's not here to speak on it, but I can completely understand the residents' issues about some better communication. We'll try to relay that back to the chief, and as well, I think as a municipality, we're going to try to communicate that better. I know the chief said he put out a Nixle alert, which is a kind of an older system that the township used to put out different safety alerts. But we should have probably done a little bit better using some of our other platforms to get the message out there to the residents.
I can't speak for other commissioners, but I can say I did not know about the trend of stolen cars. I didn't know anything about it. We weren't notified either. After the fact, I was told there was a Nixle put out, like he said, and I was actually notified by one of your neighbors that was at my house doing plumbing, and he told me, I'm like, what? I completely blindsided. And what you said, all you want is better communications. That is something you can go back through my emails and the videos, and I've said that for 3 years, that the board is left out of the loop on many of these things. And so I imagine how you feel. Thank you.
Yeah, Don, if you have one more thing to say, it's usually not a give and take, but if you have something else to say, you can come up.
In that 2-week period, there were 7 vehicles stolen, and probably, I don't have an exact number, but there were better than 20 cars broken into. And I know one weapon that was taken. The amazing thing is that contractor's truck, nothing was touched. I had over $2,000 worth of tools in my car. Nothing was touched. Just, like I said, we're a very small piece of the community. We're very tight-knit. When we first found out about David's truck and my car, we were walking the neighborhood, telling all of our neighbors, get everything locked up, keep an eye on who's coming in, who's going out, because nobody has a reason to be there unless they live in Ardera. It's just a gentleman from Upper Ardera came over and talked to us because his car got stolen. There's no way of stopping it. They finally figured out they don't have to work in their little community. They can come out here where people are a lot more laid back.
Yeah.
But it's just frustrating when I have to go through 2 weeks of nonsense and not hear a word. When I'm getting more information from the street than I am from the police. Thank you, folks.
Yep, thank you, sir.
Dr. Kathy and Mr. Don, President Haggis had said that, Chief's not here tonight, but next week he will be. Is there any chance we can invite you to come back Wednesday night next week and speak of this again?
I have other plans, unfortunately.
Okay. Dr. Kathy, would you please? And listen, I'm not going to sit up here and say I know what you're going through, because I can say, about 12 years ago, both of my cars were broke into in my driveway.
Mine too.
You too?
Mine too.
And doggone it, they were locked. I think that was about 12 years ago.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, and I think there were 40-some cars in total over the period. And I know I chased one of those guys down the road, and I put a laser on him. I was told I was not ever to do that ever again, because I left the sanctity of my own house to engage, which I guess is, but I'm going to tell you, I did it. And would I do it again? Yes, I would. I don't want scumbags like that in our community. And I'm going to tell you, if they're afraid to come, they should be afraid to come into North Huntington. They should. They really, really should. They should be afraid of our police department. And if our police department gets their hands on them, now I'm not saying physically and then, hey, we're going to go ahead and beat up the criminals, right? Take away due process. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is you come to North Huntington and you have bad mojo with you, brother, sister, you came to the wrong town, because we're not going to put up with it. So if you can, please, next Wednesday, come back, 7 o'clock, another 7 p.m. And please bring more. And because the only way things get solved is if we create good communication between us all, and together we can do it, and we can make a better community. So thank you both for coming forward tonight.
Thanks. Does anyone else have anything for residents' input, response? If not, work session discussion topics, Manager Falk.
Sure. Item number 1, the Keystone Collection Current and Delinquent Business Privilege and Mercantile Tax Collection Proposal. As you know, our current tax collector collects this on behalf of the township. She is not running for re-election again, so we'll be getting a new tax collector here shortly, beginning next year. So part of their duties is not only collecting our real estate taxes, but issuing our business licenses and current and delinquent business tax. Keystone, who currently collects our per capita tax and a few other taxes, does do this, and they submitted a proposal. This is their second proposal. The first proposal was a little high. They came back with a lower proposal where if we use last year's numbers, 2024 collection numbers, it would cost the municipality about $2,374 more because they're getting a higher commission versus what we currently have with the agreement with our current tax collector. But with that being said, Keystone Collections does have the resources to collect more taxes, to do a better job of that, I firmly believe. And so that figure should go away. But also remind the board that when the new tax collector comes on, if the board does not decide to go with Keystone Collections, we'll have to negotiate with the new tax collector, their commission and their agreement to collect the taxes for that, because that is currently an agreement with our current tax collector. Are there any questions before moving on to turn it over to Mr. Winters from Keystone Collections?
If we contract with them, what happens to the tax collector? What impact would that have?
The impact would be that the new tax collector will not have to collect the current and delinquent business
Right.
privilege tax. They would not issue the business permit, which is currently $10 every year for those businesses. And the commissions would be decreased. The current rate of the commission for those collections would be $11,000. So that new tax collector would not receive that additional compensation.
Okay.
Because we've already, even though we did not renew the new ordinance or create a new ordinance for the tax collector commission back in 2014, or not 2014, back in February when the deadline was for the new election, the other commissions all stay the same for the other taxes, which is at the state high, with the state maximum of $10,000 for the real estate, and then the 5% commissions for all the other taxes.
Thank you.
Mr. Winters?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Falk, and thank you to the commissioners for having me back here. I truly do enjoy coming to these township meetings again. So I just wanted to, I think Mr. Falk summed up nicely our proposal. One of the things that we do, and I think one of the benefits that we have, is we have other resources than your tax collector has. And not trying to take anything away from tax collectors, but when new tax collectors come in, it's a large job. I think a little bit more than they understand, and they have to understand the real estate job. And at the same time, you don't want to see any decreases in your current revenue on business privilege. We have the records from, since we are your LST collector, every business in the township is paying us already for LST. So we have that. We take that on a regular basis, compare it. We get from your EIT collector. We take that and compare it, and are able to really cross-reference lists. We also can take occupancy permits from the township and really do that. Just want to point something out, because I like to be full transparent to every municipality I talk to. There is a delinquent commission. This is the only tax we actually charge a delinquent commission on, because by law, we're not allowed to put delinquency for this tax onto the delinquent business. Every other tax, we can put the delinquency onto the taxpayer, but for some reason, there's actually a House bill right now going through that would have, will allow the delinquency to go through. So if that bill happens to go through, we can reevaluate this at that time and go back to a zero commission, like our other delinquent taxes that we do. Any questions? I just want to point out, and Harry, correct me if I'm wrong, this will be for 2026 start, because your current tax collector will collect all of 2025.
Correct. You stated the House bill. If the House bill passes, the delinquent commission will go down to 0%
Yeah.
for the municipality.
Just like our other delinquency. We do delinquent per cap for you and delinquent real estate delinquent at 0% because of the commission, because of the small minimal fees that we pass on to the taxpayers that are delinquent. We provide to the township the entire amount of that.
Okay, so then your commission, total delinquent collection commission would decrease from the municipality.
The commission, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe you
Okay.
said it, yes. So, but that's only if that House bill passes, I
Correct.
just wanted to, that is something working through. But I like to be, just to show why there's a commission on delinquency, because none of our other contracts with you have a commission on delinquency.
I just want to make sure that I heard Township Manager say this. And I just want to make sure this is right so everybody can hear it again. Keystone Collection will not collect property tax.
They collect delinquent property tax.
Oh, they do
Delinquent,
collect
yes,
delinquent
yes.
property
Yeah,
tax.
by
Okay.
code, I mean, not the,
Okay,
by code, the tax collector is only responsible for collecting current real estate. Before it was turned over to delinquent, the delinquent was turned over to the county. Instead
Okay.
of turning it over to the county this past year, you actually turned it over to us.
okay. So only delinquent property tax will you touch?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate
And
it.
that's something we're doing currently in 2025,
Okay.
so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Is the board interested in moving forward with this? If this so, we have some draft agreements we could put together and review them at next month's work session.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, item number 2, establishing a nuisance ordinance. The majority of the board was interested in a proposal of establishing a business nuisance ordinance. What we did is we reviewed a couple of different municipalities that have it, and we kind of summed it up into one ordinance, into ours. This would be our draft ordinance for having the ability to pull a business license or an occupancy permit for a business for the following reasons: of fraud, illegal consumption illegal consumption or sale of alcohol beverages, illegal drug activity, illegal game activities, litter, prostitution, owning, operating, conducting a vehicle chop shop, and a few others, conducting activity in unlawful manner, any violation of any other ordinance in the township. So this will give us some teeth to be able to go after that. And if the designated officer, the code enforcement department, or the tax collector pulls that business license, they do have a way to appeal to the Board of Commissioners for that, to get that business license or permit back in. Are there any questions about the proposed ordinance?
Yes. I agree with Mr. Carosa that it's, right now, this ordinance reads that you could pretty much shut anybody down because somebody is going to violate one of these things, and my concern is that it actually addresses patrons of the establishment. If they're conducting business and they did something, or number one, half of the violations you read contain the word illegal. Well, if it's already illegal, there's already a law against it. So I think we're duplicating charges, basically. I mean, if a patron does something illegal in the business or at the business or whatever, and we don't want to pull their business license, we want that patron addressed for the activity. And then I think there's enough laws on the books right now that if we enforce them, we don't need more. My question is, was this designed in response to the vape shop? Is that what brought this up?
That is what brought this up, yes.
Okay. And they were conducting business illegally, right?
That is my understanding, yes.
And they were cited or arrested or something happened. I know Commissioner Zona spoke about it. Maybe he could tell us what happened with that, or why we actually need additional tools.
My reasoning behind this was, yeah, you're right. I mean, if it's illegal already, there's a law against it, but when you have a business that's selling illegal they're selling illegal material in their business. That's what I was looking at. I wasn't looking at going after the patrons. I was looking at going after the business. Do we want a business in this township that is flagrantly violating the law, not just our ordinances? They're violating state law. They're selling illegal drugs out of their business.
Then-
That's what I was looking at. That was my reasoning behind it.
So we
Huh?
could specify, I think what I'm hearing is, first of all, going through all of these, looking at them individually, and then specifying in more detail, instead of saying illegal consumption or sale of alcoholic beverages, it would be sold by the business, illegal, and we could write it that way, and removing, I get what you're saying. And what we did was, we tried to get, these are everything. We found from different ordinances of all the different ideas. You can strike lines in them, or we could modify them to what North Huntington really wants. But giving you all the different ideas of what you may want to pursue to stop a business from acting in that manner. So we could amend it to say the business selling illegal alcoholic, and do it that way to make it more clear. But we wanted to give you every opportunity, and so we researched different nuisance ordinances. And this came from different ordinances all throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Okay. I mean, I just have concern about due process, and it's such a broad net that you could grab everybody for anything, according to this, so.
Yeah, I can tell you by experience, in my 12 years of doing this, one municipality was only enforced once. But again, it was after
This?
police, something similar to this. It was
Okay.
after police activity. You know, we don't go out looking for this, but like if that vape shop, for example, was selling illegal items after everything was taken care of, then now as a municipality, we can go in and essentially pull their business license for however long the township wants to.
And another way to maybe monitor this, or these ideas, is, I get that you don't want to close a business because a patron is acting in an inappropriate manner. But is the business encouraging those types of patrons to come to that business? So you could also make a threshold that if there are X number of times that the police have to go there, maybe 3 times, then it's become a nuisance, and therefore now we're going to cite you and pull a business license. So you could also put a threshold into it, or something like that.
Liquor control has a nuisance bar, right?
Right.
Ordinance or law, whatever. I mean, I would like to see it written more along those lines, repeated offenses, the same issue, and maybe we could work in there upon conviction. Because again, we have due process.
And I do agree with all of that, yeah. I think you wait till somebody's convicted of it, absolutely. And I think a lot, like with the drinking of alcoholic beverages, I think that's governed by liquor control. They can shut businesses down or pull their license
Right.
for that kind of thing.
They-
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think some of this, and I agree, just need to go line by line and scratch it out. And just to clarify, I would only be in favor of going after the business on this too,
Right.
and not after the patrons. Again, however, I like that to say if it happens so many times and they're cited so many times or something, then there is an issue and the owner knows what's going on. And if somebody's caught in a bar doing drugs in the bathroom every weekend,
Right.
then something needs to be done because the owner just don't care. So I think it needs some work, but I think it's somewhere to start.
You know, I think the township needs teeth, folks. We really do. We've got, under this, the revocation of business license permit and approval are 19 issues. And if you were to read every one of those issues, I honest to God believe that you would look and go, yep, we don't need that in our community. Yep, don't want that one. And I know we want to separate from being heavy-handed, and we want to separate ourselves from being boy, we're taking people's liberties away. I understand that. And people go, boy, Eric, that's a fine line. You know, there's democracy's great and freedom's great and liberty's great. Well, heck yeah, it sure is. But we also, with those beautiful things that we have, we also have to have law and order. And we also have to have that let people know if you violate these laws and orders, it's not against freedom of religion, you know. It's not against freedom of speech, you know. It's not against freedom to assemble peacefully. We're looking at unlawful junk dealer operations, unlicensed or unlawful firearm possession by a patron. Well, that could wind up bad. And this is coming from a guy, and I will tell you, like me or not, I am pro Second Amendment. I believe in the NRA. I believe in self-protection and carry permit. But if I got an organization that's allowing illegal drug activity, unlawful street or sidewalk obstruction, illegal gaming, public urination and defecation, man, I don't want any of that in my community. And I'm pretty sure none of you do either. But if we can tighten this up and give you folks something that protects the community, and again tells the not so good people in the world, because God knows we've got them, you know what? Come to North Huntington. You're going to be in trouble because we're not going to put up with it. I like Mayberry, okay? I was raised in black and white with Barney Fife and Andy Taylor. And I'm telling you, I'd like to see this nation get back to those days, honest to God. You know, and I think we all do too. That's how I feel.
Guess I would just suggest to any of the board members, if they have a suggestion on the current proposed policy, maybe just send an email to Solicitor Dice and a copy of the group of the Board of Commissioners and Manager Falk, and we could try to clean this one up a little bit. And like Harry did say, there is an appeal process, so if someone felt that they were treated unjustly, that they could come to the Board of Commissioners, so that we would actually hear an appeal if someone felt that they were being treated unfairly with pulling of a business license.
The appeal process comes to the commissioners.
Correct. That's what it states in here.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm
It also,
hip on that.
Commissioner Gray, it says commissioners or your designee. So
Yeah.
you can actually, if you decide to use a hearing officer, or you can create a board, but you can designate how you want to do that.
Okay.
Well, if the board's okay with that, like I said, if everyone wants to send their suggestions to the group, and we could try to clean up the policy or ordinance a little bit.
One of the things that jumps out at me here is item L that says unlicensed or unlawful firearms possession by a patron. Well, if you go into Giant Eagle right now and have an unlicensed gun and you're found out, do you want them to shut down Giant Eagle? I mean, punish the actor, not the business.
Right.
But let me ask you this, if there are multiple citations, and again, I don't know that it's Giant Eagle, it's whether it's the vape shop or the nuisance bar that brings in the same patron that continues to bring the unlicensed firearm. Do you want any of that in the ordinance, or do you want that to be left to the DA's office, the police just do the citation and then follow through?
I think this addresses businesses and individuals, as it should. If we've got individuals that are willfully violating the law, they need to be dealt with as an individual. But if we've got a business that is kind of okay with that subversive activity, then we have to go to that business as well.
So I'm hearing then the repeated offenses is what you're saying, Mr. Gass. And Mr. Gray, you don't want anything with patrons.
I think,
Well,
I wanna
I'll
speak
try
for
to come up with
Commissioner Gray,
something.
but we could maybe take a look at the
Okay.
Liquor Control Board. I'm sure they probably have something for nuisance bars if there's so much
There-
police
yeah.
activity that if it reaches to a certain point with a time period that we could take a look at.
There's a whole policy on
Yeah.
nuisance bars, but I think both, what you guys are saying, can both be taken care of here, because, I mean, if somebody has a concealed gun on them, you don't know they have it on them. The business doesn't know. They can get in a fight in your business, and the police come and they find they have an unlawful gun. Your business is not responsible for that, I don't think, because it's a concealed weapon. You don't know they have it, so.
I think
Good luck.
Yeah.
have some direction, hopefully.
All right, moving on to item number 3, the PennDOT winter maintenance agreement. Last year, we discussed this, and engineer tech, Mr. Grabiak, and our public works director, Mr. Hoglinski, has worked with PennDOT and came with some better numbers and a better agreement to review with the Board of Commissioners. And I'll turn it over to them.
I'm sorry. Question for you. Did I miss numbers in the book? I saw the new agreement, but did that, oh, I'm sorry. I did miss it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, it's in there.
Oh, I didn't,
I think they're in the back.
Back behind.
wow.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. The only number I was looking for, and I didn't review those numbers, was how much money are we losing per lane mile right now by doing what we want to do for safety versus how much we would lose per mile if we sign the agreement, basically.
So that
And
was something
because
that.
my expectation would be they're gonna ask for more and more road miles. So are we losing $50, using a number, for doing the areas we want, which are 2 miles? And then are we losing later, if we sign this, we're doing 6 miles, we're losing a lot more every snow. So
Right.
that's what I was looking at.
So that is something that John and I actually talked about today that we forgot to put in the packet.
Okay.
So you said you're estimating 1 to 1.5 miles we do, and that is road miles, correct? So,
Is that the same miles every time?
It varies. You could say yes, because that's the trouble spots that our guys know they have
Right.
to hit. But it's becoming routine that the police contact us on every call out. Late at night, early in the morning, it varies where. But as soon as, if it's a school day, I can guarantee you we're going to the same spots.
Same
But again,
areas.
Rich, it varies from,
Right.
It varies from time to time. But
Right.
I think it's a misconception that it's a big losing money thing. And Cody's done quite a bit of homework, which we can
Okay.
go back and forth on here. One thing to bear in mind before Cody starts, this winter was bad. And there's something in there that he's going to tell you about that we just learned about with PennDOT. But prior to that, the 3 winters prior, we would have been paid the same amount of money, yet used virtually no material. So you get paid whether you use it or not. The township gets a check. So it would balance out between bad winters and mild winters. And as Cody will tell you, there is a county by county breakdown for additional monies when they deem it to be a severe winter, which this winter was deemed to be
Yeah, I
severe.
read that.
According to your guys, and you guys put it on there, you're looking at 10 roads total. One way is 6.5 miles, but if you double that, because it's a lane to and fro, you're at 13.08 miles. So we're looking at 10 roads totaling 6.54 miles. If I'm reading this right, based on what you guys wrote. Cody, am I reading that wrong?
yes.
of a
So,
Read that front page, Eric.
so that 6.54 is Turner Valley alone.
Read that front letter, it explains it all.
And what John suggests is starting slow with this
Right.
and starting with just the top 4 roads.
Okay.
If you would like to go into how you got these 4 roads to start with.
Thanks, Ron.
So some of it's just based on my personal experience from being here so long and dealing with it. I know exactly what, where the problems lie. And then, as I told you guys a couple months ago, we had our eyes opened by the school district when we sat with them and talked about certain things. Hauntown Wendell Road is a nightmare for them. And I was surprised to learn that it's Hauntown Wendell Road between Main Street and Barnes Lake Road. And after leaving the meeting and thinking about it, I realized that we're treating Hauntown Wendell Road from Barnes Lake to the township line with Swickley. That's why they're not having any issues over there. We're pretty much treating that whole section because it becomes impassable over there, not only for the motoring public, but our driver can't get through. I mean, that's just habitual. So it's come to the point where he's pretty much just treating that every time we're out. To sum this up on my end, the word refuse is a bad way to put it because I work for you and the public, but I just don't want to accept the status quo anymore. It's our objective to make things better in the township, and we're heading in the wrong direction with this. PennDOT service is just, it's abominable. We can't get them to fill potholes. I had to beg 5 residents today to call PennDOT themselves because I called them, the girls in the office call, we get no response. They just don't care. This is a small difference we can make and be compensated for it at least.
I have a question on the chart with the road names. Now, on the far right column, it says number of services to break even.
Yes.
So you would have to run that road 41.4 times
Yes.
to break even.
Yes. So, the break even money wise.
So if we run it less, then we make money.
Right.
If we run it more, we're losing.
Right. For reference, I'm
Yeah.
still waiting to hear back from PennDOT. It comes straight from Harrisburg, the check that each of the municipalities got for the additional winter maintenance this year. So I don't have that number yet. I'm working on it. But this year, which was a severe winter, we did 45 treatments on each road.
That was my
Tractor.
next question. What's an average treatment on these roads? 45. This year it was 45.
This year was 45. So we don't have a good tracking from the previous
Okay.
years because we were tracking this year to bill the developers for the winter maintenance that we have not been doing.
But I think it's safe to say that the several years prior was obviously less than 45.
Yes. Yeah, so the way they determine that extra money is based on county, and since we are in the western part of the county, we have the mountains in the east, I think we're in a really good situation with, if the eastern end of the county gets a lot more snow than we do, that's accounted for us too.
Board have any other questions? I mean, I'm open to the idea of starting with your recommendation with the roads that you suggested on the top of the list and see how it goes and possibly expanding it further if it works out for us. And I agree with you. There are some roads that, obviously, you guys hear more than anybody that, why didn't this road get done? Well, no one wants to hear, but that's not a township road or that's a state road or county road, but everyone always praises all the work that Public Works does on our roads, so if we could do a little bit and break even, or even if it costs us a little bit, I think it's probably a good thing.
I just want to remind the Board of Commissioners on the first page, paragraph number 3, proposed approach. What John and Cody are asking for, number 1, a trial period. So we give it a whirl. And number 2, without overextending our current resources. I think that's reasonable.
But you have to sign a contract with them, which is, how long is a contract? A year?
It is a 5-year
5
contract.
years, okay. So that's a trial period would be 5 years because we're signing into it.
Now, I did attach the email that I got from
I
our
saw that,
representative, that if we want to drop roads, all we have to do is send them a letter. Now, she mentions in there, more mileage might need to be dropped to make the routes work for the department, so we can't like, if they want to do their loops, we can't drop part of that loop, so that they would have to go down, turn around in the middle of it. And they can section off roadways too. Looking at our map. If, something that they discussed with us, they didn't say it would happen for sure, but at the end of Hawntown Wendell Road, they may cut us off at Turkey Farm, and they may do Turkey Farm, Farm Spur, and that little section of Hawntown Wendell Road, which is like 3/4 of a mile that would take off of us.
But then
Director,
again,
go ahead. I'll go.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
But then again, that's only if we want to drop those, right?
Well,
Say, for instance, you want to drop Barnes Lake.
right.
That's only if that's the case.
Not necessarily. We have to agree, since we haven't moved forward with this agreement, we could say we want all of Hawntown Wendell Road right now. When we move forward with the agreement now, they could say, hey, it doesn't make sense to go past Turkey Farm.
Okay.
So we're gonna cut you off at Turkey Farm, we're gonna take care of that portion. But that also cuts off right at Natalie Drive for us. So our drivers could go into Natalie and do Hampton Heights plan.
Director Hawklinski, you have over 20 years in the road department, correct? So, I mean, myself, I'm going to lean on your experience, and your ability. You've been in those plow trucks. You've done it all those years. I've never driven a plow truck on these roads. I've never tried to keep the roads clear. So I'm really leaning on your experience, and I think if everything you're telling us, I would support this, to do those 4 roads and to see how that goes, and I would be in support of it.
I appreciate that. Let me just say, it is a 5-year agreement, but PennDOT is more than willing to work with us. I mean, they bent over backwards. They're actually thrilled that we're entertaining this idea. The representatives we meet with, they're really easy to work with. So this isn't going to be a problem. And come a couple years into this, the township's going to be so much better off that it will be an afterthought to get out. And just for an example, there's other roads listed here, but the next road I would take after this year, when this works out for us, is Clay Pike. I'd take Clay Pike from Route 30 to Main Street in Hawntown, where the county takes over, because that's the school district's next biggest problem. So,
And I would suggest too, on getting a hold of PennDOT, I mean, that's what our state reps are here for too. I think we reach out to them and give them our complaints about PennDOT. They should be our go-between for the state, so I would try that too. Brian Razzle in our area here.
yeah, just for anybody, there's a pothole on Barnes Lake Road. It's atrocious. It's going to cause an accident. I called them twice. Called them last week, this week. There's no response.
I'd reach out to Brian and see.
I mean, I could do the same if you wish. That's fine.
I guess if the board's okay, maybe you guys could get something more in concrete with PennDOT, and then we could get it and take a look at the actual agreement, and then we could agree to put it on the agenda after we have that in front of us.
Mike, I just want to emphasize, my concern is that, like you just said, taking over Clay Pike additionally later or whatever, the program is going to creep, is going to expand because of the wonderful service you provide, and then we're going to have to hire more people.
I don't want to
So,
speak for him, but I know he said before that a lot of the plow drivers are already driving these streets to
Right,
go to the
I
streets
get
they
that
treat.
one.
And I know that treating the street and driving, it's different. It
Correct.
might take a little bit more time, and obviously it's going to take more salt. But
Material.
they're traveling the streets already. It's not like they're
Right.
not traveling that street to get where they're going to plow.
Yes, we have multiple drivers on most of these roads. And Commissioner Gray, I don't want to make it a secret. I do plan on asking the board to hire more public works employees in the future, not for this reason, because we need to keep up with the infrastructure of the township. And I'm not just trying to bloat our department but the township's becoming very cumbersome on the amount of employees that we have. We want to do the best that we can.
Thanks.
one thing in closing, the reason we're bringing it now, we have to do something with them before the end of June, is that correct? We have to have an agreement with them before the end of June. That's why we wanted to give you guys the opportunity now to have a little back and forth.
Okay, moving on to item number 4, the MOU with ASME Council number 13 regarding volunteers. We did meet with the union and the volunteer group. There was more explained to them, and they were very appreciative and understood the reasoning. We did just make a small change in some wording, which is volunteers will not create new paths or construct obstacles or perform any construction tasks without the approval of North Huntington Township. And they understood why, because, you know, we need to make sure that those trails that are going in are done appropriately, because if they're not done, you know, at the end of the day, we're held liable if there was an accident or anything on there. So they were very well appreciative, and they understand, and both parties are in agreement with this.
Any questions?
I know, who was it? Mr. Gray, I think, from the committee, Trails Committee, spoke last month, and maybe you could ask them to come back and say they agree with this.
Sure.
Any other discussion?
All right, moving on to item number 5, Act 49, amending the police pension plan. So last year, Senate Bill number 464 was signed into law. Permits the governing body of municipalities and police departments to amend their police pension plan to allow officers who are vested in their current plan with the option to purchase prior part-time or full-time police service to be credited for pension services. There are some municipalities that have done it already, which I've submitted a copy of their ordinance, which is Sky Hill, or St. Clair and Sky Hill County, and Cecil Township for those. As you know, the union asked for the board to consider this, the police union, because there are just a couple officers that work part-time jobs prior to coming to North Huntington full-time, and they like to buy back those credits. Now, they have the ability to do it, but the township has to amend the pension plan, the pension program. In order to do so, there has to be an actuary done, and we're actually in the process right now of doing that, because that's done every 2 or 3 years. So we're in the process of doing that, and it'll determine how much that change will affect our pension contribution. So on our line item in your budget, the PMRS contribution down in the benefits in the budget, that'll be an increase, but we don't know how much of an increase until we have an actuary done and the number of officers that have the ability to credit those services as part-time prior to coming to here. Again, this is something new to me. As I stated, it was just changed, or brought into the law last year, but if the board is interested, we could work with our actuary and the police union to determine what officers would buy that back and how much of an increase that would be a cost to the township.
Here's my issue with it. We have a collective bargaining process, and this would be a benefit to maybe not everybody, but certain people. I'm all in favor of that, but I think we subvert the collective bargaining process by doing things in the middle of a contract. When is the next contract up?
At the end of 2027.
And they would be able to do that in '27, just they would cost more for the 3 years, or 2 years, right?
That is my understanding, yes.
Yeah, that's the way I read it. So I'm not in favor of doing this at this time.
No, and I believe, Manager Falk, you kind of stated this. I mean, we don't currently have any part-time officers, and this would be actually giving some of our current officers that may work part-time before coming to North Huntington a benefit, and we would be paying the bill for that benefit that they would be receiving for service they served in another community.
Yes.
So I can support that currently.
I think one of the benefits that comes to the townships on these is if somebody buys 5 years of experience from another department, that gets them to their retirement sooner and they retire sooner. That's why an officer is gonna buy that. They're not gonna buy it and stick around till they're 70 or 62 or whatever. They're gonna buy that and they're gonna retire earlier. And then you get somebody that's making a higher salary retiring, and you hire somebody at a lower salary. That's why that is set up. That's what's behind that. I know where I worked, we could buy 5 years of military, and people bought 5 years of military and they retired. They didn't stick around. And you actually had, if you bought your 5-year military and you didn't retire, then you had to pay more for it. You had to retire when you hit retirement your years, or you paid more for it. So, and that's why the state did that, to get a higher salaried person, to get them to retire and to hire somebody behind them. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, that's what the benefit to a township, that's why a township would do that.
Any other discussion?
So the board wants to hold off until the next contract negotiations? Okay. Perfect. That is all I have.
All right, thank you, Manager Falk. Plan and engineer topics, Director Andrew Kovich.
Okay, item number 1 is the block rezoning on Clifton Drive, which was already heard at the public hearing. Just some more information to add. The Planning Commission did vote to deny this 7-0 on May 5th, citing applicant's failure to appear at the Planning Commission meeting, increased traffic in a residential area, and possible nuisance to having commercial property that close to the Taylor Ridge neighborhood. Unless, commissioners have a question on anything, we can just move that to a vote next week. Okay. Let's go to item number 2 then. The Sumpman subdivision on Guffey-Rolton Road. This is a boundary line revision between 2 adjacent lots located on Guffey-Rolton Road. Joseph and Paula Sumpman of 11400 Guffey-Rolton Road own Lot 1, which is shaded in yellow. And Martin and Mary Ann Sumpman of 11424 Guffey-Rolton Road own the proposed Lot 2. Reason for the boundary line revision is to move the detached garage from Lot 1 to Lot 2. After the boundary line revision, both lots will still meet the minimum dimensional requirements in an R3 zoning district. The May 5th meeting, the Planning Commission voted to approve this plan with no conditions of a vote of 6-0 to 1, with Jim Flynn abstaining from the vote. This is the existing conditions here. You can kind of see the garage in the top left-hand corner of the yellow parcel. They're going to move that over onto lot number 2, which is shaded in blue. I'm guessing they're probably going to sell the yellow lot and keep the blue lot for themselves with the garage. Are there any questions with this boundary line revision? In that case, that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any old business? I don't have anything on the agenda. If not, any further board comments?
I do have something real quick. Representative DeVanzo has set up a claim form if anybody has any issues with Berkheimer. Excuse me, to go to repdevanzo.com and fill out his complaint form. And he represents the 3rd Ward and parts of the 4th Ward. But yeah, I'm sure he'll help anybody in North Huntington who reaches out. Yeah, it's repdevanzo.com, and there's a complaint form for Berkheimer. It's pretty easy to find. I was on there a little bit ago.
Thank you, Commissioner Atwood.
I would just like to say something briefly. Today is May 15th, and every year on May 15th is celebrated National Peace Officers Memorial Day. It was signed into law in 1962 by President Kennedy, and it is a day to honor the officers who have given their life in the line of duty. So I would like to say thank you to all the officers everywhere, especially here in our township. We have an officer back in the corner, so thank you for your service.
Any other further board comments? Not
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
discussion. All those in favor by state and I.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Meeting adjourned at 8:20. Executive session to follow to talk about personnel matters.